Hello, and today we will go over Thursday's live class information for Act 1 and 2 of Pygmalion. Next class on Monday, we will start with Act 3. So today what we'll do is we'll be reading from different perspectives. We'll look at social and feminist critiques and reading Pygmalion from both perspectives. Comparing and contrasting these two different literary criticisms, they're very similar. Their differences is their focus. So feminist criticism will look at how women are portrayed in literature, while social criticism will look at how social classes are portrayed in literature. Feminist criticism will look at exposing a system of oppression against women, while social criticism will look at exposing a system of oppression against the poor. Feminist criticism will examine tensions in relationships between women and men, while social criticism will examine tensions in relationships between the rich and poor. So, let's give a quick summary of Act 1. What we have here is a setting, a group of people huddled under an awning during a downpour. The plot happens to be there's a man who is Henry Higgins. He's taking notes about people's accents, and this catches the attention of many bystanders. People interpret Henry's note-taking in different ways. For instance, Eliza thinks he's a cop who's trying to arrest her unjustly for prostitution. Remember, she's just trying to sell flowers. But even the fact that people would think that cops would do this shows a little bit of a tension between law and order, rich and poor, so on and so forth. So people also interpret Henry differently. But not one of them finds Henry's note-taking to be a good thing. They find him invasive. They don't like their privacy being uprooted. So Henry then goes on to correctly guess everyone's accents, which leads him to recognize Colonel Pickering, who is a fellow linguist who will be staying with him for a while. In the end, everyone leaves after the rain stops. So really, Act 1 is a basic exposition. We're introduced to all the main characters of the story. In terms of looking at social criticism and feminist criticism for this, I've given you characters on the left-hand side, and you will be doing assignments where this is actually your assignment. So in week 2, you'll have to go through each act and look at how social criticism would look at these characters or these incidents. They're exactly as seen on the slides. We would go over these in live class. Feminist criticism, forgive me, would look at how men and women are portrayed. So I gave you a starting point for a couple of these. Social criticism would be people, for Henry Higgins, people take notes to his shoes as his status symbol. And Henry Higgins is very condescending of the crowd. This shows some tension between social classes. I chose Eliza Doolittle to give you an example for feminist criticism. Eliza being very concerned about being seen as a prostitute. Notice that none of the men are concerned about being seen as potential purveyors of prostitutes. So there's some tension between men and women portrayed there. What you would have to do in your worksheets in week 2 is to explain how this character might be seen from a social criticism perspective. Act 2, the setting is Henry's apartment. This is our rising action. The plot is Eliza shows up to ask Henry for language lessons so she can get a better job. She's ridiculed by Henry, who really wants nothing to do with her. He's very insulting. Until Colonel Pickering makes a bet with Henry to pass Eliza off as royalty. And Colonel Pickering will be paying for all of the expenses to keep Eliza there. So Eliza doesn't really know what's going on, which brings into question the ethics of this bet, since she cannot really understand what the consequences of this bet would be for her. Regardless, Eliza is taken off by Mrs. Pierce for her first bath, given new clothes. In the meantime, Eliza's father shows up wanting money for his daughter, which they end up giving him, and then Eliza starts her lessons. This is Act 2. is pretty ripe for making social and feminist criticism. So for the first one, the situation was Eliza wants to improve her speech with lessons. Social critic would maybe say that the reason for this was the way to rise up the ranks is through appearances. She has to appear to be of a higher status by speaking a certain way. On the feminist criticism side, I chose Mrs. Pierce's concerns about the arrangement with Eliza as showing that sisterhood is possible. It's a woman concerned about another woman and the effects of being with these men or the men's intentions towards women. So again, for each situation, you will provide for me in the appropriate workshop how a social critic would interpret these or what evidence they would use. Finally, we're going to talk about is this bet ethical? And this is your quiz question. Considering Mrs. Pierce is very concerned about what might happen to her after the fact, so is Colonel Pickering actually. Is this bet ethical? Will it be a good outcome for Eliza? Will it help better her, or will it make matters worse? So yes, because, and no, because. I want you to see both sides of the story and give me reasons on both sides about your feelings about this particular bet. And that's all I have for you today. On Monday, in live class, we will talk about Act 3.